slides from Ralph Martiri did a presentation on the Illinois budget for us last year, November, I think, or October. November 12th. Hey. And he had about 50 slides, and I think I've got about 8 of his here. But I do want to credit that these are his slides, not mine. Now I have to make sure that I'm not blocking the signal. There. Okay. If we see the...
oh, come on, go in presentation mode.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So now we're going to talk about the some issues with the Illinois budget.
F5.
I'm sorry?
Full screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, these are mostly slides from Ralph Martiri. One slide is from me. The bars represent costs. The yellowish line, greenish line, whatever it is, represents the projected revenue. What you see is that for the current fiscal year and last fiscal year, revenue was slightly higher than costs for that 12-month period. But again, for the current fiscal year, we started the year with almost $8 billion backlog of bills, and we're going to finish with about $300 million less in the terms of backlog of bills. So the way that the state accounting works, that says we still have a budget deficit of 7-point-something billion. But by federal accounting standards, that would be a surplus of a couple of $100 million. Not great, but not terrible. And this is with the flat tax. But you see that going forward, very quickly, if we don't make a change, the revenue is going to be well short of the cost.
Did you say this is with a flat tax?
This is with the current flat tax.
Okay.
These are projections based upon current law.
But my understanding is that with the fair tax, that yellow line there would still not be at the top of the bar.
It will depend upon the year and what the rates are and what the growth rate is in Illinois and
So there is a chance it could be.
Yeah, there's a chance it could be, and I suspect that it would, if it got implemented in 2021, it doesn't take much to put the revenue line over the cost line for the first couple of years there. But you know, we may still have problems going forward depending upon where we're at. But yeah, you're right that it may not solve everything. It makes a positive contribution. The big thing with the pensions, which are, because if you see the biggish blue bars there are the pensions, and the pension costs keep going up. If we paid the proper pension contributions over the last 4 or 5 decades, we wouldn't have that issue. And we can see that in this graphic where we say these are what we're going to be paying in pensions. And the current pension contribution that's being earned by employees is the little bar down at the bottom. The big blue bars are because we have not been making the proper pension contributions since Dan Walker. Only raised the income tax, so I think he gets a pass. But Walker, Thompson, Edgar, Ryan, Blagojevich, Quinn actually gets a pass because we had the balloon payment start under Quinn, and with the 5% income tax, we were actually making the full pension payments. So when people talk about we ought to have a constitutional amendment so we can adjust the pension, and and get rid of the 3% COLA. And it would help, but it would help a little bit on that bottom bar. It won't touch the big blue bars. Where is the,
What does touch the big blue?
Yeah.
the big blue bars are, that's the,
Money.
this is what caused the big blue bars. The fact that actually salary increases were lower than projected back in '96. Benefit increases were slightly higher. There's some investment assumptions that are going down because we haven't had, in the middle of the '90s, we were getting quite good stock returns. That before the dot-com bust and the Great Recession crashes caused the overall returns to be worse. But the big thing was just borrowing contributions to pay other parts of the state budget. And that's what caused the big blue bars. If we look at how progressive or regressive are Illinois taxes, state and local taxes, what we see is that folks in the bottom quintile, the bottom 20%, pay 14.4% of their income in state and local taxes. Folks under current law, folks in the top 1% pay 7.4%, or slightly over, a much, much lower rate. Not quite, it's a little bit over half of what the bottom 20% are paying. So there's room to go ahead and add some taxes on the top earners. And the fair tax proposal, if the amendment passes, these are the rates that will kick in. Basically up through 250,000, the rate is essentially unchanged at the 4.95%. It's actually slightly lower below 100,000, but not by a substantial amount. So it's a slight tax cut on the first 100,000, the same rate for 100, 250,000, and then higher on incomes above 250,000. The portion of one's income's over 250,000. So if someone makes 260,000, the first 250 are taxed at the old rates, and the last 10,000 are taxed at the higher rate. Except if you make over those bottom numbers, a couple that makes over $1 million a year, then all of their income is taxed at those rates. So there's a big tax cliff they have to deal with. And so you may see some folks playing around with keeping their incomes just below $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Such that, because that last 10,000 in income
Goes up to 100,000.
is going to cost them tens of thousands of dollars in taxes. But what you see here is that the reddish bar is the current total state and local tax rates, and the bluish bar is what it will be if the fair tax graduated income tax structure is adopted by the voters in the fall. So what we see is that that top 1% is still paying less than most everybody else in overall state and local taxes and fees. So it might argue that there would be room for future tax increases on the top earners before we.
The fair tax bill specifies a maximum 3% spread.
Okay, the amendment does?
Yes.
Okay. Which is probably why we have this. The folks like the Illinois Policy Institute and the Tribune say, don't trust the, Madigan and the legislators in Springfield because, they're going to want more revenue, and the middle class will have to pay part of the increase in taxes. Just like we're having to pay part of it this year with all the things that we're doing to generate additional tax because we don't have the ability to do a graduated income tax. So we have a higher gas tax, we have a higher, license plates. I think the cost of renewing my driver's license is going up. Various taxes and fees are going to hit. Well, the big thing is the graduated income tax or the fair tax gives the legislators the ability to raise taxes on only the top 3%. If we don't pass the amendment, I guarantee the taxes on everybody else are going to have to go up. And there's a possibility it might go up if we pass it. It's a guarantee they'll go up if we don't.
And that's because they have to find alternative ways
To match revenues and expenses.
and that's the stuff we pay for.
Yeah. So 90% of taxpayers will get a slight tax cut. It's projected to raise $3.6 billion a year, and the top rate of 7.99% is, around the top rate of many of our surrounding states, although much higher than Indiana. Illinois has had out-migration every year except once since 25. I think that may have been when they invented air conditioning.
That's a great one, I love that.
Well, they invented air conditioning, we got the Tennessee Valley Authority and rural electrification, and a few other things at the federal level, which made it, the South habitable.
I don't know if we've got the slide here, but this is like, we've got the most people working in Illinois than we've ever had.
Right.
And the people who are working, it's people like me that are leaving. If you look at about half of the departures are
Retirees.
Who bring in minimal state income tax because Illinois doesn't tax our retirement income.
Right.
Illinois doesn't even tax the required minimum distributions that you got to take when you've got a big IRA, which I thought was damn nice.
Yeah. At the other end, because we, failed to properly fund our higher education, a lot of Illinois students went out of state for college, and we got fewer students from out of state to attend Illinois universities. I think that's part of our net out-migration over the last 6 years. And that started around, this is my one contribution to this presentation. The jobs by year in thousands, the Great Recession years of 2009, 2010, then good job growth. If you see the tax rate, back in 2009, 2010, we had a 3% state income tax. We went to the 5% state income tax, and we got those positive growth rates. Under Rauner, he claimed that the lower income tax was going to be great for growth. And so you see that we lowered the income tax down to 3.75%. And we got those lower job growth numbers. And then more recently, we've raised the top rate, or the rate back up to 4.95%, and job growth has gone up. We'll see what happens this year. I'm not sure that trend is going to totally hold, but it certainly doesn't argue that high taxes cause low job growth over the last 10 years. And again, this was Ralph's presentation for the most part, not mine, and I don't want to take credit for it.